Hey everybody, Professor Snart checking in. Okay, so we are, it's Thursday morning when I'm recording this, which is right here. So the Unit 4 assignment, the elements of short fiction and then the significant objects is due, and I think my previous post is about, or previous announcement is about that stuff. So if you haven't watched and listened, definitely do so. Okay, but that brings us to, again, the kind of core of our class, our first workshop, fiction workshop. So unlike our other units, you'll see that this one actually has two separate due dates. There's a due date to post your work and then a due date to provide feedback. So as many of you probably know, a workshop, let's just use the face-to-face example, is a group of writers. You share your work with everybody in the group, whether it's 5 people or 25 people. And everyone gets together, so you've got a copy of everyone's poem or short story or whatever the workshop happens to be, and then you just sort of go around the room and each person's work gets talked about, so you get feedback from all of those people. It sounds like something that is really only effective face-to-face. Some people they're sort of challenged to imagine it online, but in my experience it actually works maybe better online, oddly enough. True, you don't have like the facial expression or the immediacy of talking with somebody, but one of the good rules about a workshop is that the writer really shouldn't do a lot of talking, because what happens in the worst situations is that the writer starts getting feedback, but then starts jumping to the defense of the work and explains that no, you misunderstood, and no, what I meant was this, and then this happened. And the writer, him or herself, does most of the talking when in fact the purpose of the workshop is to get reader feedback, whether you like it or not. That's kind of what it is. So having our online situation here actually helps with that problem. The other thing that you'll notice is that in our workshop setup, the primary thing that you're doing as a group member is, well, you're posting your work, but the major thing is actually providing feedback. And you're providing feedback in the document that the people in your group have provided. So ours is a short story one, so you're going to get a bunch of short stories from the people in your group, and you're going to comment on them in those documents, and then you're sending that document back or reposting it to the discussion board. So you as a writer are going to get like 3 or 4 documents back with written comments, which is sometimes a lot easier to work with than that face-to-face group setting where a whole bunch of people start talking and you're not really sure who said what or what that person meant, and it feels energetic, but it's maybe not as productive as it might feel. So the online version actually works really, really well. Okay, but we have to make sure, of course, that it works. So let's take a look at how the workshops work. I want you to read through all of this stuff. I'm going to give you the really quick SparkNotes version here. How the workshop works is, again, basically what I've just said. You'll find yourself in a group. You post your work by that first due date. And then once everybody's posted, that due date comes and goes. If you've posted on time and in an accessible file so that I can open it and other people can open it, then you'll get basically half the points for the workshop. If you then, before the next due date or by the next due date, provide feedback in the document to each of the people in your group, it's meaningful feedback, of course, not just one sort of comment here or there, you'll get the rest of the points. So notice that the grading, it has nothing to do with like the quality of your work per se. Obviously, I need to see some effort into the story that you've written, but most of your grade comes from doing things on time and being conscientious about providing good feedback. So you want to read through how the workshops work so you understand how that due date structure is built, and then how to post. Again, this is pretty easy given that we've done this kind of stuff in our course before. The workshops are set up as a discussion board. Makes sense, right? You'll find yourself in a group. You can go into the discussion board and then you won't be able to create a thread. You'll just find yourself in a group. And I've obviously used old screenshots here, so these people are different. But just click into that group and then you'll be able to reply to the empty post that I built to start the thing. So everybody basically replies to post your work. And again, you're posting as a file, so you're attaching it either using this little attach or the browse my computer icon. and ta-da, there, your file is in there. Like I've noted here, you can say something like, I really struggled with the intro, or I'd like some help with characters, or what do you think of the ending? You know, you can direct readers' attention a little bit, but truthfully, you don't really have to write anything in here. As long as you know maybe your name or the title of the story and the files here, that's all the people need who are in your group. So let me show you what our unit actually looks like here before I go too much further. All of that stuff is repeated because it's really important that we do it right? And so hopefully I can scroll down. Yeah. So the short story assignment is really nothing more than write a short story. There's no subject matter. There's no genre that you have to write in. It's really open-ended. There's a word count, and honestly, that has more to do with you don't want to give people a 50-page thing to look at. You know, it's just unrealistic. So you might have, 5 pages, 10 pages, whatever your good attempt is. The other thing to keep in mind, and this goes back to that grading thing, is that we're really not looking for you to post a story that you think is absolutely perfect and you're not going to make changes to. So if there's pieces missing even, or it's not quite as polished as you want, that's perfectly okay. That's why I don't want to grade on the so-called quality of the story. And if the purpose of the workshop is to get feedback from your group, you don't want to go posting a short story that you think is done, that you're not open to feedback on. It defeats the purpose. People are going to invest all this time in commenting, and you're going to get it back and say, no, I disagree, I think it's done, no, no, no. So they've wasted their time. You probably feel worse about your story than you really need to. So write something new. It doesn't have to be polished. It shouldn't be just a scrap of paper with a little note on it about this is the idea I've got. There has to be more than that, obviously. But, somewhere in the middle between that initial idea phase and that final version of the story, yours should exist kind of in that middle space, right? Because we're looking for input from your group. So here's the actual groups for our course. You'll find yourself in here. You can click into the discussion board. You'll find yourself again. Just go in and reply to me. There's just nothing here. It's just a placeholder. And then post your fiction, post your work. Again, that's due date number 1 for Unit 5. So Thursday, Feb 5, you've gone in there and you've posted your file. Then you actually have a long turnaround time, a whole week, to, and I'll go back here, slowly but surely. Going back after I've posted my work or after the posting due date, I'll want to go back in, and if I'm here in group 1, hopefully all of these people will have posted their work. So I'm going to grab all those files, and that's going to be the next job I have, is commenting on their work. So let's take a look at that. Where are we here? How to provide feedback. Again, really important. Remember, this is what your grade is based on, not is your short story great or whatever. The golden rule, the golden workshop rule. You want attention to be paid, serious consideration to be given to your work. You have to do the same for other people. And so people will have posted a file, probably like a Word document or whatever. You need to provide some comments that are specific, that are throughout the work, not just like one summary paragraph at the end of the thing, not just a couple of little comments here and there that sort of tail off as we go. So here are a couple of screenshots of people who've actually used the official commenting feature in Word or in whatever word processor. And so again, you can see how they're tied to specific places. A lot of it's positive. This one says, love this beginning. So great. That's a nice thing to say right off the bat. Comments on the style, on a question about, I'm not sure if the question mark here is for a reason or a typo, so you can point to little things like that. Some comments are short, right? Maybe just sort of typo things. Others are much longer. They're about things that you like as a writer, things that you're not sure of, questions that you've got, all that kind of stuff. You can also, if you don't want to do the commenting feature, if you don't have a word processor or just never used that before, you can simply write stuff, in the text. Be sure to use a color or use a highlighter, the highlighted feature or something, so that we can tell where those comments are, so that your reader doesn't have to search through to find what you've said. But again, notice that they occur like throughout. They're not just a summative statement at the end. I really like the short story, but I didn't get the ending. Thanks a lot. That's not what you want on your story, so don't invest that or don't make that your investment in other people's story either. You're commenting on everybody in your group who posts on time. That's why you have a week to do it, because you might have 3 or 4 of these other stories to look at. There's notes here about, like, if you're really unsure what to say, here's some possibilities. So again, this is our first major unit, I would say. The core kind of purpose of you taking this class is exactly this workshop experience. So it's important that you review how the workshops work in terms of grading, how to provide feedback, how to post. Obviously, you're aware of the due dates, the posting date, but also the feedback date. And then it's also useful to note my little note on feedback here. Okay, funny picture, right? This cost $1 billion, who knows? A note on feedback. Art's pretty subjective. You're posting things to a workshop that intentionally need work. That's the whole purpose of it. So I don't want to be in the position of having to give your grade based on, like, again, the so-called quality of that work. I don't even know what that means exactly. So your grade isn't going to be based on that, and I probably won't give you tons of feedback on that individual piece. I can give you some, but primarily you're getting feedback from your peers in the class, your peer readers. That's not to say, though, that if there are specific things you want to talk about, that you can't contact me outside of that workshop. Just send me an email or contact me through Skype or, old-timey phone, whatever you want. So I'm more than happy to correspond with you electronically. We can meet in person if you happen to be around campus. I'm more than willing to give you lots of feedback on your work. But it's not something I'm going to do de facto for everybody as part of the workshop experience. There's, of course, pros and cons to that. The logic is really that if I start weighing in so heavily on everyone's work, then there's a sense that you really don't pay much attention to that peer feedback, which is really the bulk of what you should be getting. There's some people who just don't even read the feedback, so it's kind of a waste of my time. So I found it to be much more effective if I put the ball in your court. If you want feedback from me, extensive feedback from me, then just get in touch with me. I'm more than happy to do it. But that you have to take that first step. Blah, 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 blah. Look at all this text. That's all of what I just said. Okay, so back to our due dates here. So as you can probably see or tell from my voice at this point, this Unit 5 workshop is really important for our course. It's really important for your writing. I want to make it the most kind of beneficial experience for you in terms of getting lots of really good quality feedback. That means understanding on your part how it works technically with the 2 due dates, but also exactly what is expected of you in terms of writing the short story and then providing the feedback, and of course how the grading reflects which of those things is really more important, again, in terms of your grade. Okay, well, as always, questions, concerns, be in touch with me, and otherwise I will talk with everybody soon.